Hey Apex Agents, Mobius Y here with another video for Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer. Today's another two-part character build guide. We're taking a look at the Human Juggernaut. This is a rare class character, and it's pretty popular amongst new players because it can be very tough to get dropped repeatedly when playing this guy. It's not impossible to get taken down, but it can be very tough. Emphasis on can be. So when I was looking at this, I wanted to make use of the combos that you can do with this character. Unfortunately, I also wanted to make him pretty resilient, so that meant that I had to actually give up a lot of offensive capabilities, or just passive offensive damage, I should say, with the combat passive. But with this particular kit, you can be pretty resilient. As I said, you got quite a bit of health and shield regen. You got some passive damage resistance buffs that kick in. You got some slight movement speed buffs, a slight bonus to your max health and shields, and you get some invulnerability after killing enemies. And you can set off a whole slew of combos in any way, shape, or form you choose with the combination of the three powers. This is kind of a Sentinel sort of character because it has tech, biotic, and combat powers. So he kind of fits into one of those classes. But anyways, let's go into the breakdown first here, starting with Snap Freeze. This was originally a unique power to the Juggernaut when he got introduced. I took this all the way to rank 6. For rank 4, I went with the extra reach to try and do the freeze effect as well as the debuff to as many enemies as possible, even over farther ranges. The base range is 10 meters, so this puts it over 15 meters. And it's pretty nice to have this and to be able to maybe not set things up for a cryo combo because they're not close enough for your shockwave to detonate it, but it can still, as I said, apply a debuff or flash freeze enemies that are unshielded and unarmored. Rank 5, I went with the Brittle. Unarmored and armored enemies now receive increased damage from all sources while frozen or chilled. So any enemies caught in the snap freeze for a short amount of time when they are frozen or chilled will receive 20% more damage from all sources. So this includes setting off a combo, like a cryo combo with your shockwave, or shooting them with whatever weapon you have equipped, so on and so forth. And then at rank 6, I went with the anti-armor, plus 65% armor defense debuff. This stacks with the 50% armor defense debuff that you get with Snap Freeze at rank 1, so it gives it a total of 115% armor defense debuff, plus the 20% more damage taken debuff at rank 5. It helps big time for taking down large armored boss units, especially things like Blaze Hydras and Berserkers and the like. So it can be very handy even on Platinum for taking down big boss units. Fortify. I took this all the way to rank 6. At rank 4, I went with the extra protection, but honestly, you could pick mobility. This is kind of just player preference. Pick whatever you like. I do enjoy the extra damage resistance when the Fortify is active, but the extra mobility can be pretty nice too because I'm very rarely sitting still with this particular build. Rank 5, I actually picked Shield Feedback to give you a higher shield regen bonus and delay reductions in health and shield regen. I felt it was more appropriate than the power armor option because you're not really focusing a heck of a lot on your gunplay, so the extra accuracy and stability bonuses don't really mean too much, and the melee damage bonus is kind of I mean, you're not using your melee a hell of a lot either. Rank 6, Explosive Purge. This adds all sorts of versatility, being able to stun enemies that are too close to you, as well as being able to set off your own tech bursts. This is actually really awesome. In order to take this to rank 6, this is why I had to give up on the combat passive, because I love this unique versatility and just the awesome utility of being able to do this. This is an awesome thing to have to run into a group of enemies, especially a group that has just spawned, and you set this off and they're primed for tech bursts for about 2 seconds. It's also really cool to do on destroyers because you can get up to a destroyer, hit your explosive Purge and then hit them with a shockwave, you'll set off 3 tech bursts, provided neither of their turrets have been destroyed yet. So you'll set off a huge combo, essentially. And you'll see it in the gameplay. I use this quite liberally, and it's really handy for finishing off super weak enemies that are around you. It's really handy for stunning things that get in your face, like Remnant Breachers, Ket Wraiths, and Outlaw Adhees. Any of the little rushers that try to break you out of cover, essentially. And Shockwave, this is your go-to detonator. Of course, took this all the way to rank 6. Excuse me. So normally the effective radius is 1.5 meters when casting it. So at rank 4, I went with the extra radius, increasing the just the width of the shockwave by 100%. So another 1.5 meters. So it's 3 meters wide. So it's just a lot easier to hit things that are primed for your combos this way. At rank 5, I went with recharge speed because it's a pretty big reduction, 35%. That drops the total recharge down to 8 seconds, which is super handy because Snap Freeze's recharge time is 10 seconds. And when you purge your Fortify, its recharge time is 6 seconds. Those are all base values. So being able to have your shockwave kind of in the middle of those two allows you to cast your detonator pretty regularly. And at rank 6, I went with lifting shockwave. Affected enemies are briefly suspended in midair and primed for combo detonations. This is just another way that you can prime for detonations. Or prime for combos, I should say. Unfortunately, you do have to rely on a teammate to set these ones off, but it's also a really great form of crowd control. After you stun things with your Fortify, you set off tech bursts with your Shockwave. They'll be floating in the air for a few seconds, allowing you to either regroup and run away or just easily pick them off when they land back onto the ground. Same thing when you freeze them and then with your Snap Freeze and then hit them with a Shockwave to set off a cryo combo. They'll be frozen and suspended in the air for a short amount of time. So it's just an awesome method of crowd control. At rank 5, the reach option is definitely a good idea because it'll make the shockwave go out as far as your Snap Freeze, if I recall correctly, because when I looked it up, if my memory serves me correctly, Shockwave's base radius is just like Snap Freeze, where it's 10 meters. So taking the extra 50% reach at rank 5 will also make Shockwave 15 meters, have a 15 meter kind of cast radius, just like Snap Freeze. So it'll hit anything that you can catch with your Snap Freeze. That is if I am remembering the base value correctly, which I'm pretty sure I am. Personally, like I said, I just like having the extra recharge speed. It just gives more versatility and crowd control capabilities due to the fact that you have lifting shockwave at rank 6. Apex training had 1 point left over, so I put it into this for plus 5% weapon damage. Whoop-de-doo. I would have loved to bring this all the way to rank 5 for special combat training, which gives you that 50% all combo damage, which would be amazing. But, you know, it's just not in the cards. In order for all this utility with all 3 powers, as well as being extremely resilient, with the Remnant armor maxed out, I had to give up something. And unfortunately, it was such an awesome pick, such as special combat training with that extra combo damage. If you so wanted to, you could completely give up points in Remnant armor to max this out and crank up your power damage and force on all of your powers, if you so chose. Remnant armor took this all the way to rank 6. At rank 4, extra regeneration for plus 50% health regen cap, plus 50% health regen, and plus 25% health and shield regen delay reduction. At rank 5, ramping defense, plus 40 maximum damage resistance maximum damage resistance buff, adding on to the base max damage resistance buff of 50, so you could get up to 90 damage resistance, reducing all your incoming damage by nearly half, not quite, a little less than that. And at rank 6, invulnerability. 1.5 seconds of invulnerability after you kill an enemy. This is actually pretty huge, and like I said, this is what saves your butt when you're attacking groups, especially if you chain multiple kills as opposed to get multiple kills at the same time. Because it'll be a second and a half of invulnerability, you kill something else, you're invulnerable for another second and a half, etc., etc. Do that 4 times in a row, you've been invulnerable for 5 to 6 seconds. And it's just really cool. It makes this character very resilient, and he's still able to dish out some damage even with not much going into something like the combat passive, to passively increase things like weapon and power damage, but just the versatility of the kind of combos that you can create with a purging fortify and a shockwave, or a snap freeze and a shockwave, and you can cause all sorts of widespread damage. So let's take a look at equipment, consumables, and my weapon of choice in the gameplay is the Venom, and I particularly went with the Siphon variant. Venom's not the best pick for cranking out damage, I know that, but it's actually really fun because it dishes out area damage, offers a little bit of crowd control because it can cause staggers on weaker enemies, and it's just fairly effective. It's a pretty good way to regen health too, by shooting a charged shot into a group of enemies, and then all the little clusters damage a tightly packed group of enemies. It's effective that way. It is definitely wonky to use, and as I said, doesn't pump out huge amounts of damage at a fast rate, but it's effective for just another means of crowd control, essentially. For equipment, I like the Stronghold package. I was trying out other things like structural ergonomics, I believe it is. Yes, structural ergonomics for reduced power recharge speeds. But I eventually settled on the Stronghold package. Man, I got problems today. Because it increases your shields by 20% and reduces shield regen delay by 70%. So your shields start coming back really, really quickly with the combination of the Stronghold package as well as the bonuses in the Remnant Armor passive. Now, for consumables, I recommend a Cyclonic mod. I used a grade 2 in the gameplay because it's the lowest one that I have. And I just threw on a shotgun rail amp to increase the power of the Venom. You could do something like a power efficiency mod. That is definitely doable. Or you could just do like a powered, universal power amp. That's what it is. I forgot what it was called. I knew it was a power amp of some sort. Just couldn't remember what kind. But a power efficiency mod is definitely pretty cool, especially if you use, like I said, structural ergonomics. Just keep in mind that you won't be as resilient as you will be in the gameplay video that I have for part 2 of this character build guide. So that should sum it up. Like I said, this was focused on versatility, being able to do all sorts of combos and crowd control through any means necessary. All 3 of the powers on this kit have some method of crowd control. Shockwave throws people into the air. Fortify stuns them. Snap Freeze will either slow them if they're a big armored boss, or freeze them in place if they are a smaller kind of humanoid-sized person that is de-shielded. And Remnant Armor maxed out actually makes this character pretty tough, especially combined with the equipment and consumables. So, for part 2, which is this exact setup in a gold difficulty match, check the link in the description below, as that is what I do for every character build guide, so you can see this exact setup in action, and just get a kind of a feel for how I actually play it, so you can try and replicate what I do for similar effects. So, thanks very much for watching. Hope you found this video informational and helpful. This has been Mobius Y for Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer, as I said, for part 2 of today's character build guide. Check the link in the description below. I'll see you on the battlefield. Good luck, Apex.